You flip a switch, the lights come on. You turn the tap, water comes out. Simple, right? Well, what you probably don't realize is that behind the scenes, there's this invisible operator kind of running the show now, and that's AI. And yeah, it's making everything smarter, more efficient, but it's also opening up a whole new can of worms when it comes to risk. That's exactly why the government just dropped this new safety plan, and we're going to break it all down.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at AI's role, the invisible operator. Then we'll get into the new rulebook itself. After that, we'll pinpoint the specific dangers they're worried about, walk through the government's three-step plan to deal with them, and then, most importantly, we'll talk about why any of this actually matters to you.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the main character in this whole drama, AI. And look, we're not just talking about chatbots or those fun image generators. This is the heavy-duty stuff, the AI that's getting woven right into the fabric of our most critical systems. So really think about this for a second. Who actually controls your lights? Is it still just the power company? Or is it some algorithm making millions of tiny decisions every single second just to keep the grid from collapsing? Yeah, this isn't a sci-fi question anymore. And this slide right here just nails the core problem. It's a classic double-edged sword. On one side, you've got the promise, right? A future where our infrastructure is so smart it can predict failures before they even happen. But on the other side, there's the peril. Every single system we hand over to AI becomes a brand new weak spot, a new target for someone with bad intentions. So how do we deal with this? Well, the government's answer is to create a new rulebook. And the very first thing this rulebook does is make it crystal clear who's responsible for what. No more finger-pointing when something goes wrong with our essential services. And just so we're all on the same page, what are we even talking about protecting here? The term is critical infrastructure. And believe me, this is not just some boring government jargon. This is the stuff that holds our society together. The power grid, the water supply, the things we literally can't live without. Now, what I find really interesting is how they've split up the duties here. You've got the government on one side. They're the ones setting the big picture strategy, updating the laws, making the security plans. And then you have the providers on the front lines, the actual companies running the power plants. And it's their job to take those rules and make them a reality, to keep their defenses up to date.
Right. You can't fight an enemy you don't understand. So, a huge piece of this new guideline is just naming the threats, getting super specific about what the dangers of AI actually are.
And here they are, the 7 official risk categories. And this list is, well, it's pretty comprehensive. It goes way beyond just technical glitches. You see things like imbalance in human-computer interaction. Think about a traffic control AI that's so complicated a human can't jump in and take over during an emergency. Or misinformation, AI-generated deepfakes designed to cause chaos during a crisis. It covers the whole spectrum. Let's zoom in on that cyber attack risk for a second, because it's a two-way street. On the one hand, attackers can go after the AI systems themselves, try to poison their data, trick them into making terrible decisions, but they can also flip it around and use AI as the weapon to create attacks that are faster, smarter, and way harder to stop than anything we've ever seen before.
And this leads to a really critical point. A line in the sand, really. The guidelines aren't just about managing risk. They're about knowing when a risk is just too big. The document says it flat out. If you can't control the risk, if you can't reduce the impact, then that AI application has to be restricted or even prohibited. Full stop.
Okay, so we know the risks, but how do we actually fight back? Well, the plan gives us a playbook, and it's broken down into a super logical 3-step process. What to do before something happens, during it, and after it's over. And this is the core of the whole strategy, right here. Prevent, respond, recover. It's simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. It forces everyone to think about the entire life cycle of a threat, from building strong walls in the first place, to damage control in the heat of the moment, to learning from your mistakes afterwards.
So let's dig into that first step, prevention. This is all about getting ahead of the problem. We're talking about concrete actions, like making sure there's always a human in the loop so an algorithm can't just go off the rails on its own. And I love this one. They're demanding a software bill of materials. It's literally like an ingredient list for your software, so you know exactly what's running in your system and whether any of those ingredients are known to be dangerous.
But look, no defense is ever going to be 100% foolproof. So when something does get through, the playbook flips to stage 2, and it all comes down to one thing: speed. Pure and simple.
And when they say speed, they are not messing around. Just look at this timeline. A company gets exactly 1 hour from the moment they discover a breach to report it. 1 hour. For major disasters, they've got 36 hours to get it under control. This puts an incredible amount of pressure on them to act fast and get the right people involved immediately. All right, and finally, after the immediate fire is put out, we get to step 3, recovery. And this part is all about making sure it never, ever happens again. It involves doing the deep dive to find the root cause, sharing what they learned with other companies so everyone gets smarter, and of course, preserving all the evidence for the investigation.
So, okay, we've gone through the players, the risks, that whole 3-step plan, but let's bring this back down to earth. What does all this government policy stuff actually mean for you, for me, in our daily lives? Here's the takeaway. This isn't just some abstract document collecting dust on a shelf. It's a very real, practical safety net designed to make sure the lights stay on, the water is clean, and all those other services we totally take for granted keep running smoothly and safely. It's all about that partnership between the government and the companies on the ground to manage these new AI risks.
Look, this new guideline is a huge, absolutely necessary step forward. It gives everyone a playbook and a common language to start tackling these AI risks. But it does leave us with a big, lingering question, doesn't it? Our world is literally being rebuilt with AI at an unbelievable speed. So the question is, are our defenses evolving fast enough to keep up?